Right, before we get into the video, uh, if you've been enjoying these sort of self-improvement videos and you really want to get into the self-improvement space and stuff, then make sure you subscribe to my channel and like this video. Not only that's let me know that you're enjoying this content and you find it valuable, but also lets the sort of YouTube algorithm know so it can recommend these videos to other people, and that kind of just helps more people wanting to get into self-improvement, hopefully. So yeah, that's all I've got for this marketing section. The main bulk of the video is going to be, as you can tell from the title, it's going to be about mental health. It's going to be about trauma, and it's the sort of discovery I made that anything you want to do in life, whether it's going to be relationships, whether it's just being successful, anything you want to achieve, happiness, etc., it all comes down to how you manage your mental health. And when people say that, it's kind of like it's like a blasé sort of statement. It's like, oh, you sort your mental health out. What does that actually mean though? Like, what does sort your mental health out mean? And that's the video that's recently uploaded. Obviously, it'll be a few weeks. When this video goes up, it'll be in a few weeks ago, where I spoke about how to start self-improvement. And it was that thumbnail with me with my journal saying start journaling. This is where I'm just going deeper into that now. Mental health, a lot of our behaviours and anxiety or depression stuff that we experience nowadays, it comes from traumas that we experienced as a child. And if you sat there thinking like, shit, my childhood was alright, I didn't really have many traumas, you'd be in exactly the same position that I was about, well, probably literally like 2-3 months ago. It wasn't actually that long ago until I actually have traumas from my childhood that I need to address, and that sort of made me understand where my sort of anxieties and stuff and how that affected my relationships and how that kind of moved into my next sort of actually progressing on this. And when I journaled about it, and it's funny because I kept procrastinating journaling on this for ages because it's almost that sort of perfection sort of thing where I was like, I really want to go out in nature with my journal and sit with my journal for like 2-3 hours and journal about it. Then I was like, I think when I got COVID, I was like, fuck this, I'm just gonna have to start writing about this now. And like, the main trauma I had was, and no, I'm gonna explain first of all that this is not to knock. It's basically how I grew up with my mum, how my mum sort of raised me, and like including my dad as well. Like, no one's gonna have perfect parents basically, but I want to state first of all, it's not her fault that this is how she raised me. She's come from growing up in apartheid in South Africa as a coloured woman who wanted to become a doctor, and that's not obviously a very easy thing to do. Her father wasn't in her life for quite a long time, and unlike us and myself today, we've got so many resources online of how to sort this shit out. Like, you're watching a video on how to sort out trauma. My mum never had that opportunity, and like, it's almost for me to be brave enough to start bringing these conversations up with my mum, because I want to help her as well, but I feel like I need to fully come into my own self before I do. Like, I need to actually become a full man, and that, for me, becoming a full man is like, I feel like I've sorted out my mental health sort of stuff, but I'm not self-sufficient, like not even by the modern terms. I still live at home and I feel like it's also a weird sort of dynamic that's like, once I can say I'm self-sufficient, I'm living more, I don't need to rely on anybody to pay bills or whatnot. It's almost like right, I'm a man now, it's almost like, it's a weird thing of, as a man, when you have that financial security on yourself, it brings a certain confidence. And like, I've never quite experienced that because I've always been like, I've always relied on my parents for money. But like, I'm getting fucking way off topic here. The trauma is basically like, my mum was always quite angry with me. Like, she wouldn't like hit me or anything, like not very often. Be like, there's like a few times I can remember, if you're if you're black or if you've got like parents of colour, then you'll know, like, there was a meme that I seen a while ago where it's like, when your mum tries to hit you and then you block her and then she tells you that you've hit her or some shit. It's literally like shit like that. It's funny, but that only happened twice I can remember. It was basically like, my mum would get like, she's like really, really angry with me when I like mess up or do anything wrong. And like with my dad as well, she would get angry at him very easily and like be very like bossy and commanding and shit. And it's like, that's what I seen in relationships. That was kind of my idea of a relationship, is like the woman gets really angry at the man, and like because my mum's also getting angry at me, it made me fucking scared of women. Like, I didn't want to upset women. I didn't want to do anything to make a woman shout at me like that. Honestly, like I was scared of that. Like, I remember even periods when I was in my relationship with my ex where I've done something wrong and she's like, you know, like she's telling me off for it or something. I'm like, I felt like a scared little child. That's how deep the trauma ran. Like, it ran into my relationship and stuff. Honestly, like if I had this awareness back then, things would have worked out a lot smoother. I don't think I would have been in the relationship still. Probably would have like ended the relationship earlier, but because I would have realized more about getting into my self-improvement early in the relationship. Yeah, but like that trauma of like, it's simple things. Like, I think I wrote a few things here. It's like, yeah, constantly try to get my mum's approval for doing things so she wouldn't shout at me. Like, in small things, and it almost feels like you're always not doing good enough. That's how I felt when I was growing up. And that massively affects like my relationship with women, basically. There was always that when I was growing up. This is when I was reflecting in my journal and shit. I was like, I always have this, like, I had that like fear factor where if I mess up then I'm gonna get shouted at and it's gonna be like the worst thing in the world. It's gonna be so terrible. Whereas like I'd see other guys like doing shit, messing up, like they don't give a fuck, because they don't really care if like a woman's shouting at them or something. Whereas when it happened to me, I was shit scared. Like, just like I said, in my relationship, I felt like a little child, like a scared little child, and like I want to go back and like hug my former self in a sort of way. I read it in this book actually, Stillness is the Key. Let me find there's a chapter that's about your inner child. 2 seconds. Heal the Inner Child, page 105. Yeah, so I think there's a line in here. I'm gonna cut this bit out because here's a line here. Think about it. How much better and less scary life is when we don't have to see it from the perspective of a scared, vulnerable child. That's why life was so hard. Like, that's why I found it so difficult. When we see the roots of things, our suffering will lessen. So mindfulness recognizes, embraces, and relieves. Here, this is the line I was looking for. This is basically the essence of self-love. I'll kind of read the whole paragraph. Take the time to think about the pain you carry from your early experiences. Think about the age of the emotional reactions you have when you're hurt or betrayed or unexpectedly challenged in some way. That's your inner child. They need a hug from you. They need you to say, hey buddy, it's okay. I know you're hurt, but I'm going to take care of you. The functional adult steps in to reassert and reassure, to make stillness possible. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to look at your inner child. Like, look at your traumas from your past life and seriously think about how that causes anxieties now. It's literally, oh fuck's sake, I've lost the bloody page, but I'll find it. I'll be 2 seconds. It's that thing. Think about the age of the emotional reactions you have when you are hurt or when you're betrayed or when you're unexpectedly challenged or something like that. That's always where it is. It's like, is the sort of the ego thing, because you're protecting your traumas, isn't it? Like, I'm going to make a different video on ego because I'm not going to sit and explain that now. It's actually the 3rd book in this series. I've got this Obstacles, the way I would get up and go get it, but It's there. You can search it on Google or something. There's a third one called Ego is the Enemy, which is going to be my book that I read after Atomic Habits, which is in a bag over there. But just look at your inner child. Like, think about next time you're anxious, think like, why the fuck is that making me anxious? Like, some things are so weird. Like, why am I getting anxious about that? And you look back and you just think about how your parents raised you, or think about any situations where you've been bullied, any situations where you've been embarrassed, or you've been physically hurt, traumatized, or just shouted at or abused. Any of these experiences as a child, it's so like it ingrains into how you act now. When you're a child, you're so impressionable. Everything you like, it's like a classic boy grows up and wants to be like his dad, or a girl grows up and wants to be like her mum. It's like it's because you're so impressionable at that age. Like, some trauma happens, it's like, okay, this is how life works, so avoid this. It's that sort of thing. And like, the only real actionable step there is to sit on your own, find solitude, away from distractions, pen and paper, ideally pen and paper, because if you're doing it on like a phone or a laptop, yeah, you can turn off your notification, but like, just do it on a pen and paper, because you're there for the purpose of writing. When you're on like a laptop or a phone, you can use it for multiple purposes, so it's like you don't really feel like the same purpose. It's not like there's not one purpose for using your phone. There's loads. With pen and paper, there's one purpose. Well, you're either drawing or you're writing, if you know what I mean. Like, if you're gonna get pedantic about it. But just sit down and think about it. Everyone's got shit that they struggle with in terms of anxiety and depression and stuff. That all is rooted in your childhood. Look back to your childhood. Figure out why it is that you get anxious now. And honestly, sometimes that's the only step. That's the step I'm at now, is just realizing where it comes from. So I'm not going to speak further on that, because that's like, it's a really comforting step, and it almost gives you a state of calm to know that that's where it comes from. When I figure out the next step, I will share it, of course. But I've just shared some trauma shit that went on with me when I was younger, so you get something out of this video at least. Until next time, I'll yeah, like I said at the start of the video, actually like this video so algorithm knows more people get into self-improvement. It's just good for everybody. And subscribe to the channel as well if you want to be on self-improvement and join the most beautiful journey of human life. I'll see you guys next week or next video.